Hydra performs well, very well in fact, in that rematch against Free Shipping. We finally had our hammer-on-hammer dream match, and the main event this week, Blip versus Tantrum. This seems reasonable warfare. Battle of the former Johnson & Johnson sponsored robots. Did it live up to the hype? I don't know. It was a great fight. Big playoff implications there. We talk about those 3 fights and 4 more this week right here at the Combat Collective, breaking down Battlebots World Championship 7, Week 8, right now. Stay tuned.
Oh my God! Wow! This is the biggest flame we've ever seen.
Has preserved enough energy to get in the flip on Carbine. We're going to go all the way.
Oh my God! That's gonna hurt!
Grab the milk, Jenny!
Welcome to the Combat Collective.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Battlebots rundown episode here at the new Look Combat Collective, bringing everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the heavyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit, and of course bringing everything you want to know about the 2022 World Championship 7 Battlebots season, which we are in the regular season of Week 8 right now. And as I said at the top of the video, some very good matches in this fight card. We had 6 playoff implication fights with 14 robots that all, we're still in the thick of the playoff picture. Even robots like Glitch, still 0-1. There's still plenty of time to go 3-1 with a rough season like that. Or I should say a rough start to the season like that, that Riptide fight Glitch had. Short but very sweet, big-time impact. Will Glitch recover? I'm sure a lot of y'all know, but we'll talk about that later in the episode. And we'll also talk about, yes, those aforementioned fights that I just mentioned. The big-time main event of Orange versus Blue, Tantrum versus Blip, the defending champion against the younger sibling, Hammer versus Hammer, US versus UK, the legendary John Reed with Beta taking on the new blood. Not really new blood anymore. The veteran Hammer player, a real icon of the 2000s, Adam Wrigley, Bots FC with Shatter. The Whyachi doubleheader at the start of the episode, all that and more. Of course, we also have the alternates battle. We all are finally seeing Slammo. We are finally seeing Terratops. That's exciting, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. As always, the Combat Collective is sponsored by our friends at robotsruinmylife.com. You can find their link in the description below. They are the merchandise and exposure provider for numerous robot combat teams, such as Battlebots like Omega Team's Starchild, Omega Team's Ripperoni, Team Shredded's Shredded-Bro, and Norwalk Havoc. You see the shirt back here. Robots like Wake and Bake. This is Wake and Bake, Robots Ruin My Life merch right here. Other robots like Blackbird, the original Shredded Bro. Other shredded machines like Hyperdrive and Hercaboose. And speaking of robots like Hyperdrive, Hercaboose, and Wake and Bake, our third TCC/Robots Ruin My Life giveaway kicks off today as this video comes out. You can check out the link in the description below for that as well. I don't know if it's going to be Gleam again. I'm kind of feeling iffy about the Gleam giveaway service. I might try to look for a better streamlined one, but whatever one it will be, link will be in the description below. And this week, if you haven't figured it out, we're giving away the NHRL Wake and Bake purple t-shirt. I mean, come on now, spring's coming up. I know a lot of y'all guys, especially out in California, Colorado, trying to wake and bake. And I mean, NHRL seasons, we're already in the thick of it. People are still talking about the exciting new Robots January event. Crazy machines like Big Cookie competing at that event. Big Cookie we're going to be talking about during our Motorama rundown coming up. But we also have our first proper NHRL event happening in March 18th. We're going to be live streaming before it. And Wake and Bake might be there. We don't know yet. We're all just going to have to wait and see what goes down. But that's enough rambling for me. Shoutouts once again to robotsruinmylife.com. Now let's talk about these 7 exciting Battlebots fights. Now in this 8th week of Battlebots, a week of new faces and early playoff races, the opening fight for this episode will be yet another rematch from 2019. Seems like that's a bit of a trend as the 1-1 Hydra brings it full circle to fight the very first challenger it ever faced and the very first robot it ever knocked out, the also 1-1 Free Shipping. Both of these robots looked incredible in round 1, but floundered big in round 2 to Tantrum and Minotaur respectively. Now, this is a rematch, but much like other rematches, namely Lucky vs. Kraken, we're looking at two fully changed machines right here. Hydra is now in its second version, free shipping in its third, and the first of its line to now also feature a vertical spinner. And speaking of free shipping, the original Sin wedges were added here that helped it in week 1 back in the fight, while Hydra looked exactly as it did during that Tantrum loss it had a few weeks prior. Now, Jake Ewert was worried about this fight, given that free shipping's vert is very similar to Tantrum's, but needless to say, maybe a stressed Jake Ewert is a better Jake Ewert. I mean, what a driving performance here. Hydra dominated this fight and did not let free shipping manage even the slightest modicum of offense, outside of a couple skirts getting busted out on the sides of the flipping robots. Not really much, as when it was all said and done, this fight would go 3 minutes and very well could have been a knockout. His team Whyachi now makes it 2-0 over the legendary Gary Jin. So do you guys like stats? We got stats, and Battlebots of all folks were helping out with them this time, as during the 2019 Hydra 1.0 versus Free Shipping 2.0 meeting, Hydra struggled but won with 2 flips on 5 attempts, managing only about 6 seconds of collective airtime during a comeback knockout in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. But just last week, during the 2022 Hydra 2.0 versus Free Shipping 3.0 meeting, Hydra will put out 20 flips in 24 attempts, putting together 52 seconds, nearly a collective minute of airtime in a fight that would have been a knockout in about 2 minutes and 58 seconds, assuming Hydra had left free shipping alone. So that's some crazy stats. Most flips, I believe, in a Battlebots fight ever by one robot, as Hydra now looks safe for the playoffs at 2-1 with a surefire main event versus Sawblaze on deck. But as for free shipping at 1-2, Big Dill is the last challenge remaining for Gary Jin, and a dominant KO like in round 1 versus Gigabyte may be enough to sneak free shipping into the playoffs. And now Fusion is up in this Whyachi doubleheader to kick off the week, and this fight also has quite a bit of history behind it. Team Whyachi versus Team Huge has quietly become quite a rivalry in the Battlebots Reba era. During week 2 of the 2019 season, Son of Whyachi would obliterate Huge, and then only 1 year later in 2020, COVID season, Huge would lose the incredibly controversial bike rack fight versus Hydra, a fight which has stirred up frustration and bad blood in numerous people to this very day, and you just know that group of people has to include Huge captain Jonathan Schultz. This kind of past meant both teams were very serious about being ready for this fight, as Fusion would run a smaller vertical spinner in exchange for added top armor, while Huge would return to its round 1 appearance of all Tegris wheels with that deadly signature S blade. Fusion captain Reese Ewert would say before the fight that he was worried about Huge because of both Jonathan's driving ability and that quote-unquote, it is a big gangly bastard. And both of these qualities would play a factor in what would be an absolute stomping here by Huge. 3 strikes and it was time for Fusion to pack up. Schultz said he was confident he could kill quickly and proved it here. 44 seconds from buzzer to buzzer as we had a strike to the side, a strike to the screws, and then a strike to rip off Fusion's top to end it all. Some gnarly damage done by both robots here, but of course Huge is the story. 3-0 for the first time since its insane 2018 debut, and Huge may be even scarier now than it was then, and now has more momentum than it has had in years, and its schedule has been no cakewalk either. The monster spinners are now set to challenge the similarly built Starchild, and many are predicting a 4-0 Huge season on the horizon, plus maybe a top 10 seed for the big spinner. Fusion, meanwhile, finally delivers a lesser performance, but still is easily the most impressive 1-2 of the bunch so far. A win in this much-anticipated rotator fight would put it into the top 32 easily, I believe. But if you lose there, Fusion, I hate to say it, no matter how good you are, you probably need to go home. In Fight 3, we have another quickie on deck, a battle between one of the sport's most legendary teams taking on an incredibly young, still inexperienced team, both with robots which seem to cause more problems than they're able to solve themselves, as both Lockjaw and Glitch respectively are coming in with some tough losses, with Lockjaw looking a little bit silly without the forks versus Sawblaze, while Glitch, like we mentioned earlier, will be one hit knocked out by its sophomore rival Riptide in round 1, week 1. Lockjaw will be back with his traditional Lockjaw forks, thankfully, but the exciting addition here for me is the return of Team XD's drone Spitfire, who now fights for its 3rd robot in 4 seasons while rocking this brand new green livery. Glitch, meanwhile, looks the same, but once again, is barely crossing the finish line here. Even more issues before fights here for UC Berkeley. Now, like I mentioned, this fight, short and sweet, impressive driving by both robots and drone in the opening seconds, but Glitch would eventually be outdriven and cornered by Lockjaw, and Glitch tried to make a push forward, getting a bite on Lockjaw's left fork, but Donald Hudson would immediately clap back with a brutal one-hit knockout strike, which nearly threw Glitch out of the arena. UC Berkeley's main robot fell on its top once again, and with no self-rider, you don't have much hope. Just ask Cobalt last week. A knockout in 54 seconds, and thank God, because Lockjaw randomly began to shoot out fire and smoke as soon as the countdown began. Now, Glitch reportedly made some big upgrades last offseason, especially in the weapon category, and Kenny Florian made a good point in mentioning maybe UC Berkeley bit off a bit more they can chew with these upgrades. The team has gone from a 7-0 upstart to now 3 straight losses by KO, but at least their nightmare first half of the season is finally behind them, and they need to get it together for the season's second half where they face a pair of horizontal spinners in Triton and Valkyrie. A good performance versus these two fledgling horizontals could be what they need to sneak into the playoffs, maybe in that 25 to 32 seed slot. And Lockjaw, as we saw, still not perfect, but that new shock absorbance system has worked pretty well so far, and Lockjaw has guaranteed itself a 500 regular season. Mad Hatter is the sole challenge remaining, and a victory here would be a playoff lock, but a very impressive loss against Mad Hatter also might just be enough for Donald Hudson to sneak in. Now, the Midway Major, a fight almost a decade in the making, and I'm about to nerd out here. Two Roboteers which have become the standard bearer of excellence for hammers and axes in their respective continents. They are finally meeting here with their respective robots. And let's start with the US representative. Adam Wrigley was one which got hammer robots back on the radar in the US for almost a decade. Mega Melvin debuted in the mid-2010s and was immediately a US Sportsman live scene favorite, and even cameoed in Robot Wars Series 10's intro. And then after all that, Mega Melvin, under the new name Blue, would compete in China for 2 King of Bots seasons, going undefeated in the second season in 2018, and then later that year in 2018 would win the Robot Ruckus event with the same robot, Blue. In 2019, Blue would change names again to Shatter and has reached the playoffs in 2 of its 3 Battlebots seasons. And Adam Wrigley also very well experiences with hammers and axes in other classes too. Mock-Off White, for example, a multi-time NHRL finalist and former event winner. But any hardcore Robot Combats fan favorites, no matter where you're from, entering this fight had to be John Reed. I mean, it's someone I grew up with watching him on KERA. I've talked about that before. John Reed trumps that impressive resume Adam Wrigley has, going all the way back to, like I said, 1998. As in that year, John Reed would create Kilohertz, one of the most successful early hammer/axe bots in the United Kingdom, a 3-time Robot Wars competitor, and a 6-time Battlebots competitor. And at Battlebots, Kilohertz would never miss a top 16, even made it to the finals once, and even won Best Driven at one point. 2003 onward, Reed would focus on Terahertz, making multiple Robot Wars Grand Finals appearances with the robot, and winning multiple FRA UK annual championships with Terahertz as well. And then you got his robot tonight, Beta, who was built all the way back in 2002 with today's standards of power, was too dangerous for the then gravity-held down panels of the Battlebots, so it couldn't fight. And when it finally had the chance to debut after the Beta curse was lifted in 2016, it has absolutely wowed fans all over the world and has not missed a Battlebots playoff since. So there you go. Stage is set, plenty of hype here, and the pressure was most certainly on for Bots FC, who made an anti-Beta setup with long forks, extra armor up top, and the addition of the little rusty hammerhead for precision on Beta's rear end where all the internals were exposed. Beta, meanwhile, would make only one change, bringing back that signature Beta hammer so they could simply shatter. Last year, a much similar dream match in Shred Raider vs. Gigabyte seriously underwhelmed, but this one most definitely did not. Both weapons were swinging wildly and some solid driving was exhibited by both sides, but one thing Shatter did not have, which Beta did, was sheer aggression and pushing power thanks to Beta's brushless 4-wheel drive system. This let Beta bully and control a majority of this fight, despite the Shatter forks working okay when in action, as Beta would go the full 3 minutes in dominant fashion. Overall, Shatter would manage a fair 3 hammer hits in 7 attempts, batting .429, but Beta was looking more like Bam Bam, putting together an astounding 23 hits in 27 attempts, batting .852. Beta spent a lot of this fight playing whack-a-mole with Shatter's weapon module, leaving its axe limp for a majority of the fight's second half and a drive soon after, as the legendary Team Hertz would take the judge's decision win here unanimously. The old guy still got it, it looks like. An utterly dominant performance by Beta. As John Reed said, Beta is back, and they secured a judge's decision victory, finishing the second half of its season at a dominant 2-0. But there are some proper beasts in its second half of the season, with Black Dragon and Bloodsport on deck. A win versus either, and Beta is into the playoffs, but I expect a good showing, and that should be enough to qualify it for the playoffs, given its name value. Shatter and Bots FC, meanwhile, are happy to battle such a legend of our sport, but now sit in a serious hole with their 2-robot team now at a collective 0-4. The 0-2 Shatter should get a W versus Horizon, but I'm really watching out for that round 4 Omni versus Omni fight with Dutch Ominous. Now, last week we had an absolute barn burner of a UK versus Brazil battle in the main event with Team Carbide's Cobalt versus Riobots' Minotaur. And this week we get perhaps the second best UK team in the world fighting the second best Brazilian team in the world now. It was Crusher versus Eggbeater, Robo Challenge versus Uriah, Quantum versus Black Dragon, and this one was a big one for the Dragon, who currently sits at 21 straight fights without a knockout. And if Black Dragon can survive the next 3 regular season battles the rest of its schedule, win or loss, it would tie Bite Force's Battlebots record. So in preparation, Black Dragon would make some moves for defense and survivability, extra armor added up top, vulcanized rubber wheels, and Dragon Claw anti-crusher wedgelets to help get under Quantum. And in the pre-fight interview, Uriah Captain Julio Cortez said that this fight would be easy, but this proves to never be too confident in the world of robot combat, even versus total art bots like Quantum, who would dictate the pace of this fight from point A to point B. Both robots were anxious and cautious at first with their driving, but 15 seconds in, Quantum would have first blood and first bite of the bout, fitting that crusher perfectly between the weapon and body of Black Dragon. Black Dragon would push back quite a bit, showing some aggression and control, but most of the offense would be Quantum's here. One bite to the vulcanized wheel, one bite right through the front of Black Dragon, a strike from Black Dragon, then the answer back, which damaged Quantum's drive the first time we saw that this season. And then yet again, finally, another bite right into the weapon gap on Black Dragon, and this time, Quantum would somehow bust its own wires in the process, wires which allow Quantum to release the crusher, meaning, well, this fourth crush could not be let go. Over 3,000 pounds of force stuck in one motion, kind of like when Captain Shredderator was stuck spinning that one season, same with Invader. And this forced a can't unstick judge's decision with 51 seconds left. Yes, Black Dragon's streak is still alive. I know some people are probably going to put an asterisk on it now because of this fight, but Black Dragon was not knocked out. The wheels were still spinning. I'm sure the vertical spinner could still spin, but I mean, they were stuck. Can't do much about it. You gotta be safe. Ultimately, the judge's decision would go to Quantum, who held down Black Dragon for a collective 66 seconds this fight, bringing its season total now to 168 total collective seconds of crush time, with one fight still to go in the regular season. That being said, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Quantum exhibited control, but I think Black Dragon had equal damage due to that one drive hindering strike, and I also think they had more aggression. I mean, in the end of the day, it was an error on Quantum, something which broke on that robot, which forced the fight to stop, and the judges did look at damage. They walked inside the arena, but I'm not sure if that was accounted for or what happened to Quantum. That might be an after-the-fact discovery. So for me, that's a big reason why I think Black Dragon perhaps should have won this fight. But regardless, Quantum is now 3-0, easily the best a Crusher has ever performed inside the battle box, and now it is qualified for the playoffs. Black Dragon, though, from Brazil, meanwhile, still has the aforementioned Beta in round 3. But I'm quite intrigued with round 4 and Riptide, main event level fight, and that's going to be the real test for Black Dragon's never knocked out streak, in my opinion. Riptide, as I said in the past, a proper knockout artist. But now on to match 6, our second all-alternate battle of the year. On one end, we got Terratops, a robot with the same fight style as Big Dill, but with more focus on the lifter, I would say. It sprung into the scene rather quickly and has left its mark even quicker with this confirmation at both RoboGames and Battlebots within a year of emerging on the scene. Unfortunately, despite being very well prepared and making it through safety on day one of Battlebots' behind-the-scenes situation, setting up in pits and all, Terratops will still be an alternate for 2022, and same for its opponent, the 3-season veteran now Slammo. This robot made top 32 in 2020, and despite 2 top 4 finishes at heavyweight live events since the 2021 Battlebots, this robot is an alternate somehow. Really don't get how. Slammo, though, looked as it does in his team photos, and Terratops much similar, but instead using a traditional 1-2 disc instead of the Terratops signature blade. And also no tail. No Terratops tail. My heart's quite frankly broken. But this was another quick but exciting fight, and all of it was dominated by the rookie Terratops. Terratops outwedges and lifts Slammo early to flip the veteran over, and then would deliver a handful of surprisingly powerful vertical spinner strikes, which forced Slammo's lifter upwards, and I think broken. We'll get to that in a second. Slammo would attempt to fight back, doing a cosplay of a Twackbot at one point, but Terratops soon had Slammo in the driver's side corner for one more brutal, surprisingly brutal for a rookie vertical spinner strike, one that would bust Slammo's wedge and leave the former playoff member nose up for a knockout countout. And now, Kenny Florian would say that he believes Slammo was keeping its suplex lifter system upwards and out of the way as a means of strategy and stability, but personally I believe that thing just went kaput on Team Danby, as that weapon ended up being much more effective as a Twackbot flail than it did as a lifter. Overall, a knockout in 1 minute 6 seconds for Terratops, and holy cow, when I first heard about their lift and strike strategy on the Scorpius vlog, I thought I was a bit far-fetched, a bit hopeful, but boy, Team Terratops absolutely shut me up by pulling off this impressive maneuver twice in the first 30 seconds of its competitive career. Bad news for Slammo, but what a statement by Terratops. Watch out for it at RoboGames, watch out for it at the Golden Bolt tournament, and especially watch out for it getting 4 fights in 2023 after a performance like that. I'd be shocked if it didn't. Main event time. This is the one that we have been talking about since the Battlebots schedule dropped. A seems reasonable showdown between 2 of Aaron Hill's brainchildren in Tantrum and Blip. It's also a critical match for both teams, as Tantrum sits at 1-1 with the momentum of a Hydra W on its side, while Blip is in the doldrums at 0-2 and cannot lose another fight. Both siblings need to cannibalize the other to seriously push momentum in the right direction if they want to be safe entering the playoffs. Now Tantrum dominated that last fight against Hydra by holding the ground game all fight, but the tables would turn during this match here. It would get outdone by the younger brother in pretty much every single way during this battle, getting flipped early by Blip and a yeet which busted Tantrum's puncher, with the impact pretty much sending Tantrum landing directly right onto the puncher first. This busted the puncher, and the impact eventually led to Tantrum being set ablaze, smoke and fire coming out of the robot for most of the fight's remainder, while Blip just kept on attacking. Multiple brutal slams and 3 more solid flips, including one which put Tantrum onto the upper deck come fight's end, and this one was pretty much all settled and done once the 3 minutes of the fight were up. Blip would take this one on a unanimous judge's decision, managing 4 successful flips on 5 flip attempts. And funny thing here, I guess funny depending on who you are, Aaron Hill did say immediately after the fight that the Tantrum Fire would be Seems Reasonable Robotics' first ever bot fire. Don't know if you'd rather have it versus yourself or not, but nonetheless, Blip wins the must-need matchup here and does it in very impressive fashion, shutting down the older sibling and the defending champ. Aaron Hill now just needs to defeat rookie flipper Banshee to likely put itself in the top 32 running, and now Tantrum is the one in the corner with playoff peril on its mind. I mean, even as defending champion, I'm not sure Battlebots will let a 1-3 Tantrum into the playoffs over more deserving 2-2s. So the defending champ Tantrum just needs to shut down any hopes and dream Whiplash would have left during round 4 to be playoff safe. But that does it. 7 fights up, 7 fights down. We're back on schedule now. We're not playing catch up. The fights are back, and guys, I hope you really enjoy this new Look Combat Collective. I've been working specifically with my friend Thomas Sanford. I will link his Instagram in the description below if you want to get some stuff from him. I'm trying to get him into the graphics commission game because he's so talented at it. He did everything you've seen here on camera, the new logo, the new bottom graphics, the new corner screen, the new TCC TV. Shoutouts to him. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm so happy with it. I really am. This is a new era of TCC, and all this kind of shows it off right here. Also, shouts to robotsruinmylife.com, our sponsor. Might as well get all this shilling out of the way in one push, right? Already said all that stuff at the top of the video. Please check out our third TCC giveaway. We are giving away the Wake and Bake NHRL t-shirt by RRML. And, of course, the usual TCC and Robots Ruin My Life sticker packs to go along with it. Sign up for that. It's in the description below. But wow, what an episode. We had big-time playoff implications like I talked about. And the matches certainly led up to it. We had a lot of fast and furious battles. I mean, Lockjaw versus Glitch. Fusion versus Huge. Both those fights under a minute. It was utterly insane. We also had some matches that went to the judges. I'm kind of surprised went to the judges. Free shipping versus Hydra. Then again, that could have been a knockout, but Hydra chose otherwise. The main event, Tantrum versus Blip. I'm surprised that one went to the judges. Also very surprised with how Terratops did. Suddenly, that's a robot I would be very worried about competing against at RoboGames. It looked amazing there. Ben Burton, he's got a great team. He's got a great theme. We need to see the tail used more, though. We really need to see the tail used more. But that's it, though. I'm trying to make these episodes shorter, so let's go ahead and get you guys out of here. I am your host, as always, Sterling Brown. Follow me on Instagram at SterlingTXTG. As for the Combat Collective itself, we are on Instagram and we are on Facebook. We post news posts there. We post our videos there. We post other goodies there, stories there. Check that out. Link is in the description below with everything else. Also in the description below, our Discord server. We have teams from the US, the UK, chatting it up over there. We also have numerous Robot Combat fans from all around the world, US, UK, even Asia, talking about the sport there. Check it out. Join there. All of our video updates go there first. And then finally, right here on the YouTube channel, leave a comment. Give us your thoughts on the 8th episode of Battlebots 2022. And give us your constructive criticism. Tell us what you think of the new logo, the new look here for TCC. It's not a lot, but I still think it's a nice, coat of fresh paint. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Please, please, please. Click that bell icon. We have a lot of stuff happening here. It's always going to be action at the Combat Collective. It's always going to be exciting. So, follow us. Check out what happens. That's going to do it for us here. Let's get you out of here. We will see you next time.
This was the Combat Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.